Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that, let's be honest, we all deal with conflict in our relationships. We're going to explore how we can turn those really painful arguments into actual opportunities for connection. It's all about learning to fight fair and mastering the art of repair. So, why does this happen? We've all been there, right? A tiny disagreement, maybe about the dishes or being late, and it just explodes. Suddenly, you're not talking about the issue anymore. You start hearing words like always and never, and it feels less like a discussion and more like an attack on your very character. And this right here really gets to the core of it. Look at the difference. On one side, you have, "You're always so lazy." That's a huge, sweeping judgment about who someone is. But on the other side, "I'm upset the trash wasn't taken out." See, that's about one specific action. That tiny shift in language is everything. It can be the difference between a fight that tears you apart and a conversation that actually solves something. Because when the goal isn't to solve the problem anymore, but just to win the argument, well, the only thing that really loses in the end is the connection you have with each other. But here's the good news. There is a much, much better way to navigate these moments. So how do we start building that better way? Well, it begins right here, in our first section, setting up some rules of engagement. The whole idea is that you have to agree on how you're going to fight before you're actually in the middle of a fight. And what's so great about these rules is how simple they are. First, just one issue at a time. I mean, nobody can defend themselves when you throw the laundry list at them. Every single thing they've done wrong for the past 6 months. It's overwhelming. Then no personal attacks and no stonewalling. When one person just completely shuts down. Following these rules helps keep the conversation feeling safe for both of you. It really all boils down to this single thought. Focus on the problem, not the person. The moment you start talking about the behavior instead of their character, you give your partner a chance to actually hear you without throwing up a wall of defensiveness. It keeps you on the same team. Okay, but even with the best rules in the world, let's be real. Emotions can still get the best of us. And that brings us to our next tool, which is an absolutely vital skill. Learning to manage the heat by calling a timeout. I want you to think about it like you have this internal anger thermometer. It's your own personal guide that lets you know when you're getting too emotionally hot to have a productive conversation. You can feel it, right? Your heart starts pounding, your voice gets a little louder. Those are the signs. That's your cue. Because when that thermometer hits the red zone, your brain goes into a state that some call primal panic. Your body gets so flooded with stress hormones that the logical, problem-solving part of your brain literally goes offline. When you're in that state, having a good conversation isn't just hard, it's pretty much biologically impossible. So how do you get out of that state? Well, the research is actually surprisingly specific on this. It takes at least 20 minutes. That's the minimum time your nervous system needs to calm down and get out of that fight or flight mode. It's not about willpower, it's just biology. Your body needs that time. So the actual procedure here is simple, but every step is critical. 1, you recognize the signs in yourself. 2, you announce it with a calm, safe phrase like, "I need a break right now," not by slamming a door. 3, you physically step away. But, and this is the most important part, step 4, you have to come back. This isn't about running away from the problem. It's a pause with a promise to return and figure it out once you're both calm. Look, even with all of these amazing tools, we're human, we're gonna mess up, we're gonna say things that hurt our partners. That's just a fact of life. And that's why knowing how to genuinely apologize is one of the most essential skills for mending that hurt and rebuilding trust. We've all heard them, and if we're being honest, we've probably all given them. That quick tossed off, "Sorry about that," or "My bad." The thing is, an apology like that can actually do more damage than saying nothing at all. Why? Because it minimizes the other person's feelings. It basically says, your pain isn't a big deal. So this is what a real meaningful apology looks like. There's a structure to it. First, you have to acknowledge what you specifically did wrong. Then you take responsibility for it. A simple, "I was wrong," without adding that "but" that negates everything. Third, you show you're sorry for the pain you caused. And finally, you ask, "What can I do to make this right?" This is how you show your partner their feelings are valid and you actually start to heal. And all of this brings us to our final section, where we put all the pieces together. The rules, the timeouts, the apologies, they're all just building blocks for the ultimate goal, which is to turn moments of conflict into opportunities for deeper connection. This is where something called repair scripts can be incredibly helpful. Now, it sounds a little formal, but really it just means having a few phrases ready to go. Think of them as a bridge to help you find your way back to each other after things have cooled down. They're a signal that you're ready to be on the same team again. And here's a beautiful example. Saying something like this is so powerful. It just immediately reframes the entire situation. It takes the focus away from me versus you and puts it right back on us. It reminds you both what you're actually fighting for, which is the relationship itself. And this right here really says it all. This is the whole mindset shift we've been talking about. You're moving from a you versus me battle to an us versus the problem collaboration. The conflict stops being a war you wage against each other and becomes a challenge you face together. At the end of the day, it's so important to remember that this isn't about being perfect. Handling disagreements in a healthy way is a skill. And just like any other skill, it takes a ton of practice, a lot of patience, and giving each other the grace to mess up sometimes. But the really good news is that it's a skill that anyone can start working on starting right now. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if every single disagreement you had wasn't a threat to your relationship, but an opportunity? An opportunity to practice these skills, to understand each other on a deeper level, and to prove to yourselves and to each other that you can get through anything together. What if conflict could actually be the very thing that makes you stronger?